Okay, so we started today, and I asked you, Mr. Gong, how do you feel? What's your thinking on today's class? All right, I feel good. I feel confident. I think it's going to be good. What do you think about today's course? For me, both of these are the same, right? Because without the dictionary, the class, it's much more difficult. It's much more strained. Why do we have strained? This is a strainer. You put spaghetti in here, it comes out. It's very strained. Or you can say strained. Because we don't always understand each other, I think that our relationship feels strained. Their marriage was under a lot of stress or strain. Similarly, very, very, very similar to this is you have like concrete buildings, and there's a lot of strain because of the strain on the steel beams, they collapsed. It was a very stressful situation, but he didn't buckle under the stress. The steel beams buckled and then collapsed is another one. We talked about September 11th and how the World Trade Center collapsed, and I said it's because George Bush did it, and you said, Adam, that is a conspiracy theory. Again, not true. All right. I asked you about your hometown. You said my hometown is really small. It's way out in the country. It's way out there. All right. We talked about marathons this morning. You said, my wife didn't really like the idea of me running. She didn't like me running marathons. She wasn't a big fan of marathons. It hurts my knees when I run marathon. I can't take the pounding on my knees. Now, pound is also hit like he was angry and he pounded his fist on the keyboard. Talk is for discussion. Let's have a discussion. Let's have a talk this afternoon. Let's sit down and talk. We talked about Dangun today in Gangwon Island. That's where the Korean people came from. This is kind of a part of Korean history. It's our creation myth. It's like Adam and Eve. How many different types of aircraft have you flown? I asked that today. Also, we talked about the difference between having the engines, like a 737 with the engines underneath the aircraft, versus an MD-80, a Mad Dog 80, with the engines here on the back. They say that this is with the engines on the back, it's going to pitch up, right? And there's some with the controls are a little bit different. Here the controls are maybe a little bit better. The stopping power, the runway, I think there might have been a lot of runway overruns or cases of pilots overshooting the runway. Problem, issue, thing. I wish you'd use this more. It was a problem. No problem. There was no issue with that. That's no thing. Use this more. Putting someone on the spot was the important thing. The reporter asked Trump about his tax returns. Trump started to mumble, I don't know about my tax returns. The reporter put Trump on the spot, embarrassed them. I couldn't understand what he was saying. He was always mumbling. He was angry. You couldn't hear him grumbling all day long. You could hear him grumbling. Grumble, grumble. Sometimes I'm not really ready for some of these questions, and when I speak English, it's kind of putting me on the spot. Today, I asked you some questions, and you were kind of like, I need time to think. All right? Sometimes I'm not really ready for some of these questions. It's like putting me on the spot. If I drink, I need 2 days to recover. All right? Korea has a lot of these special hangover drinks. Why don't you like museums? Museums are boring. Why do you not like museums? Same thing. I don't have much interest in museums. I'm not a big fan of museums, right? Anyway, I talked about Michelangelo. He was a painter. He was a sculptor. Right? Later, I think I have another slide in here that, why can't I get the Wi-Fi here? Why can't I receive a good Wi-Fi signal? I don't know. Nobody knows. Sculpt minds. My dad was a teacher. He used to say, the reason I'm a teacher is because I like to sculpt the minds of young people, right? Sometimes, though, it takes time for the human mind to accept truth. Your homework, again, is you're young, right? So with a positive attitude, we can brainwash ourselves. What time in the morning are we talking about? What time in the morning are you talking about? Well, anytime before 12. Kindergarten versus daycare. Right? Love daycare. Oh yeah, daycare is for the little babies. Kindergarten is for the 5-year-olds or 6-year-olds. Anyway, my grandson can get to the daycare on foot by walking. He can just walk there. Or he doesn't walk by himself. We just walk him there to the school. We talked about Easter. Every Easter, the kids paint eggs. They have an Easter egg hunt. Also, you have to ask Andrea about the movie, about the Easter egg movie, or about the Easter eggs in movies. If I took her there, I wouldn't be able to play golf. I asked you, Mr. Gang, can you play golf with your wife? And you said no. If I took her there, I wouldn't be able to play golf. I'd be taking her photo every 5 minutes, which is actually my part-time job. I've never seen that. I haven't heard that before. I haven't heard of that. I think I asked you about a movie. That's just my opinion. That's just my take on the issue. I said for Dop, this room is stuffy, but that's the room. But normally for frustrated or shilmang, I want to pull out my hair. It makes me want to pull out my hair. It's very frustrating. I hate this computer. It makes me want to pull out my hair. I own it. It's my word. I can use it. Right? I don't remember how big it is, or I don't remember the shape. I don't exactly remember the size of the place. In Korea, we call this daenamu. How do you say that in English? What do you call that in English? It's called bamboo. The Sixth Sense. Oh yes, it's a movie. We have 5 senses. Seeing, hearing, smelling, touching. We have 5 senses. The thermostat. My father has a sixth sense as well. He knows if somebody touches the thermostat. If he comes home, he says, "Who touched the thermostat?" And we say, "Dad, how did you know?" Or if we're at work, if he's at work and I touch the thermostat, he calls. Those English phrases will be very useful. We talked about the cha-cha dance, right? Practice. They said, you have to practice the forward walking motion. We need to emphasize the importance of putting your weight, I'm missing this, your weight on the balls of your feet. When you are running, you have to be careful with your knees. You can't pound your feet on the ground. You need to take off from the ball of your foot. If you're running a marathon, don't quit. Sometimes you have to dig deep down inside and find that extra energy. Very important. Can you summarize what you learned? Can you give me the recap? Recap is quite often used for like baseball games and stuff. Okay, again, the cha-cha. What is the cha-cha made up of? Well, it's made up of 4 steps. Made up means consist of. Another make-up is invent a story. Superman doesn't exist. Somebody made up that story in the 30s. Hey, Captain Gang, have you heard of Super Hanguk Man? No, I haven't heard of that, Adam. You just made that up 3 seconds ago. I'm sorry that I'm late. I'll make it up to you and buy Dunkin' Donuts for the next class. There's no such thing as blinker fluid. Parents make it up to play a joke on their kids. So we watched this video where this kid, he comes out of the AutoZone, and he's very embarrassed, and because his mom sent him in to look for blinker fluid. I asked you, how did your son learn to drive? How did they learn to drive? He learned to drive at a driving institute. Right. We talked about we talked about ㄱㅊㅎ2, not Joyungi. But he said, how can we turn fear into courage? If only we could turn fear into courage. Hey, this class, man, this has inspired me. This has given me some inspiration. Remember, the side is kill. Hitler committed suicide. Hitler killed himself. Hitler took his own life. We had a little bit of a slow start this morning. It wasn't an easy or rough start.